Cause, a principle, aim, or movement that because of a deep commitment, one is prepared to defend or advocate. Karibu. Karibu is a Kiswahili word that means welcome. Welcome, you found yourself in a peaceful place, a place where you can grow and develop, and we hope grow and develop to your fullest potential. This is a podcast that we hope will expand your mind and raise your consciousness. Welcome to The Cause, conversations on music, history, and democracy. Welcome to The Cause podcast. Today we're joined by Colorado State Representative Junie Joseph, who represents House District 10 in Boulder. Born in Haiti and later immigrating to the United States, Representative Joseph brings a wealth of lived experience and commitment to her role as a public servant. A graduate of the University of Colorado Boulder School of Law, she balanced her studies with a successful grassroots campaign for Boulder City Council, where she went on to serve as Mayor Pro Tem. She is also a practicing attorney and small business owner with a focus on family law. Throughout her career, Representative Joseph has been a passionate advocate for social justice, environmental justice, criminal justice reform, and immigrant rights. Recognized as a leader for climate integrity, she has worked to ensure transparency in government, equal access to education, and policies that uplift working people and marginalized communities. Guided by the values that the economy should work for everyone, healthcare is a right, diversity is a strength, and democracy is worth defending. She continues to be a bold and equity-focused voice for the people of Boulder and the state of Colorado. Representative Joseph, my sister and friend Junie, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. I think I can go home now.
Stop playing. Welcome to the Cause Studios. It is such a pleasure and a great delight for us to have you here in the studio with us. Now, Junie, everybody knows that we've done a lot of work in these mean streets of Boulder, Colorado, out here shaking things up. But today, I want to start with a biographical question. This is a podcast where people will be listening to this far and wide. So, first question, if you will. You have such a remarkable journey from being born in Haiti to becoming a state representative here in Colorado. Could you share a bit about your early life and the experiences that shaped your path to leadership?
Yeah, thank you for this question. And thank you, Dr. Rabaka, for all the work that you do in the community as well.
Thank
You have been truly a light in Boulder. So thank you for all that you do. Yeah, I was born in Haiti, as you noted. I grew up partly in Florida. I moved to this country when I was about 14 years old. And I went to middle school in Orlando and high school in Orlando as well. Yes, my life experience, having been born in Haiti, really shaped who I am today, why I do social justice work, why I want to give voice to the most marginalized. I have seen societies that do not work. I have seen growing up in Haiti the social, political, and economic dysfunction or dysfunction of the state and how that has permeated throughout society. And that stayed with me even as a young child when I was growing up there. And I knew I wanted to be a lawyer as well at a very, very young age. Yes, because I've seen so much, right? As a child, you may not know how to express what you're seeing, but I knew it was not right, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So I knew that I wanted to be a lawyer since I was a very, very young person. So I set out. My journey took me many, many places. At When I graduated high school, I went to a community college, spent 2 years there, and then I went to the University of Florida
Okay.
and studied abroad. And I had various interests. I'm someone who my mind, I think a lot. And then I enjoy learning about a lot of things. I read a lot as well. So I had various interests. There's one point I wanted to be an astronaut. And then I said, well, that's too far from Earth. So I wanted to then study sociology. And I took a few classes in sociology, but I find out that I couldn't double major.
Sure.
So I end up pivoting that into getting a minor in anthropology because I couldn't get sociology and political science as a double major at the University of Florida at the time. I don't know if they changed that, but then I couldn't. So I ended up going to England and studying archaeology there. And
In England.
in England, yes, I went to Leicester. And if you know anything about
Yes,
Leicester, your
I
DNA,
do.
yes,
Wow.
I ended up in Leicester.
Oh my.
It was wonderful. It was just an eye-opening experience traveling the world. It just opens the world to, it opens your world as well too, right?
It
And it
does.
opens the world. It's just so beautiful. Getting to see other cultures. I end up traveling Europe, going to the many countries to seeing how other people live, right?
Beautiful.
And that was really fun. And then I came back and then I graduated from the University of Florida and I looked at my finances and my family's position. And I said, couldn't go to law school because I couldn't afford it. So I said, okay, well, then maybe I should try to think of something different. And I end up applying for a couple of universities in England to study to get a master's.
Okay.
I applied to a couple. I applied to University of York, University of Glasgow, London School of Economics, and I got into all these schools.
Mm.
And after I got into them, again, remember what I said to you about the financials. I looked at my financials and I reached out to the London School of Economics and I said, well, I don't have any money. Are you going to fund this?
Yeah.
They said, no.
Oh.
We already have somebody else in line if you don't want it.
Oh.
So I said, okay, then I guess that's not going to work. I reached out to the University of York and they gave me a scholarship.
Wow.
They gave me a scholarship to go study there. So I ended up studying to get my master's in human rights. And that really opened the world even further for me. I ended up doing a fellowship at the United Nations. I ended up interning with the UN. That also opened the world even further. I did an internship in South Africa on indigenous people's rights.
Oh.
So again, the world is slowly opening and
It's
opening.
expanding.
Exactly. So I end up in Central African Republic.
Are you serious?
Yes, I
You never
did.
told me
Yes,
this.
yes,
Come on, Rep.
yes. Yes. I end up in Central African Republic and I was having a ball. I knew that's the work I was meant to do. That is where I was meant to be. I was just so excited and I was young.
You still are. What are you talking
I don't
about?
think so.
We still young, right?
We are.
Thank you.
We are young-ish.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I will accept that. Okay.
Right. So I ended up in Central African Republic and I was working as a human rights officer for the UN there and I loved it. I loved every moment of it. I loved the fast pace of the work. And basically what I was doing, I was monitoring and reporting in human rights violations within a humanitarian context, right?
Okay, okay.
There are humanitarian officers, but I was doing the human rights aspect
Beautiful.
of humanitarian law. So basically reinforcing the state, which
Yes.
was not even there. They did
Okay.
not. Again, that's also part of where I am today, right? Because I've seen governance
Yes.
structures and systems that are so dysfunctional to the point where they're non-existent.
Yes.
So while I was living there, it was a humanitarian crisis and it was a state conflict. There were times when I was on the ground, there were conversations about a genocide happening in the Central African Republic when I was there in 2017, 2018. And I love the work, but the more I was doing the work, the more I realized something was missing. Again, within that context, you had to be able to frame some of the issues and narrative within rights, within the international rights and law. And I think think I did a good enough job, but I'm one of those people, I like to read deep. I like to get into the weeds.
Okay.
I do. I
You
really
and I
do.
like on that. You already know.
Yes, I do. So I said to myself, I want to continue to do this work, but I need to come back. So I took the LSAT and I applied to law schools and I got into CU, and they also offered me a scholarship again. I was like, alrighty, now I think that's the way to go.
There you go.
So I end up at CU Law. And part of for me, when I was leaving Central African Republic, I had a 4 years contract with the UN. And then I said, and I did not finish the entire 4 years.
Yeah.
1 year renewable, up to 4 years. And I was leaving, by the way. I understand when people say something having vicarious trauma
Yes.
and also having, I was feeling bad that I was leaving.
Yeah.
I was leaving. I was serving 75,000 people where I was as a human rights officer and reporting on humanitarian issues that were happening there and crimes. And whatever crime you can imagine,
Right.
it was happening in that country at the time I was there. Whether it's rape, murder, everything everything in between. And I did value the work that I was doing. I felt, I just loved it. I felt, what are we here to do on earth but to serve our fellow human
That's
beings,
beautiful.
right? And for me, I was leaving and I was leaving so many people behind. I felt that way and I felt it was wrong because I was coming back to this beautiful country where, it's peaceful in this country. It's beautiful. I mean, you wake up every day,
Yeah.
you don't think about dying.
Right.
You think about living, right?
That's right.
So I felt so bad when I was coming back. I said to myself, when I come back to the US, I will try to continue to do this work. And being at the state legislature, I truly believe it is an extension of the work that I was doing in that country. Even though you may say, well, Central African Republic, it's not the same as the United States in Boulder. Sure, it is not the same.
Right.
But to me, it's the same type
There
of
you go.
work.
Yep. And there are similarities.
Yes.
I just think, listen, thank you for that share. You just schooled me and you opened up in such a beautiful and powerful way. I just want to commend you with your ability to be so vulnerable. Hearing a bit more about your backstory is so powerful. It's so profound. And I think that's what makes you such an exemplary servant leader today, right? So those experiences compound. And then, sweet Rep Joseph, whenever you talk about how difficult it was for you to leave, that speaks to your big heart. Like, somebody don't think of a state, representative. You're doing all this kind of stuff and having a real, like, you still have that level of sensitivity. You're still connected to people, real human issues that are going on, which is why I rocks with you, in case nobody knew that out there. Before I go into the next question, so much of what you said, I feel like you was talking about me, like you like to read books, you like to travel, you get connected whenever you travel somewhere, you hate to leave, come back, and everything like that. And also just the blessing of what we have right here, right now. I think there are a lot of people, I've lived in Boulder for about 20 years. I've worked
Mhm.
at CU for about 20 years, and I'm surrounded by folks who I feel like they either take Boulder for granted or even the Denver metropolitan area and don't understand how this is an incredibly resource rich environment. Okay. So we have access and opportunities,
Mhm.
and I'm looking at what you were able to do. Like you realize that I've got this one shot. I don't have a lot of money, but I'm going to get there, much like Harriet Tubman, some way, somehow. I'm gonna get there, right? I'm gonna make this happen. I hope my graduate students will hear this interview. If they're not tired of hearing the sound of my voice,
Mhm.
I hope that you will come and visit with some of them. My graduate fellows, your story is so inspiring. Again, everybody already knows this. Behind the scenes, I've always supported you. We've always been able to have really, really good relations. I remember when you was campaigning, I was seeing vote for Junie signs all in the yards everywhere, and I was like, "That's my sister. That's my friend," and everything. And so again, your story is so inspiring, but your leadership is even more inspiring. And I want you to know that. All right.
Thank you.
Next question. You studied law at the University of Colorado Boulder while also serving on the Boulder City Council. How did your time at CU influence your growth as both a scholar and a public servant?
Ooh, love that. Oh, I love my time at CU. It's just a wonderful experience and opportunity. Again, as I mentioned to you, for me, I had already started a life. I had traveled the world.
Yeah.
I had seen a lot, but still there were foundational things that I didn't know.
Hmm.
And I had to come back
There you go.
to learn them,
That's beautiful.
right? And to be surrounded by our young people because many of them were much younger than I was at the time.
Mm.
And that really helped me. It ground me, right? Because I think as we get older, we forget. We
Yes.
forget many things in life. We forget that we also need to be creative.
Hmm.
We also need to be open
And keep
to new
exploring.
ideas and keep
Yes.
exploring.
Hmm.
And I think all that I had to learn again or be reminded while I was studying at CU.
Okay.
And I had so many young people who worked on my campaign as well too. That really helped me. And even today, the way I do the work at the state capitol, I want to be surrounded by our young people, people in college who are studying because they know so much more than I do. They're so much more creative. And they also are aware of things that are happening at the moment that I'm not aware of.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So they bring me into places and spaces that I would not have gone on my own.
Okay.
So I'm so grateful to have had that experience of, being a law student at CU.
Wow, this is so powerful. Representative Joseph, I feel very similarly that being able to go into the classroom, which I've just come out, as you know, I've just come out of class, being able to go into the classroom with 18 to 23-year-olds, if you see the way they school me, I know I probably shouldn't say this because some of their parents and grandparents are listening, but if you see the way that they actually teach me, I didn't even know the new Cardi B album had come out, right? I don't even know if I knew the new Taylor Swift album had dropped. They told me what was up with it. And so for me, I do think that that is so important. The notion of reciprocity and what we do. So whether you're, in politics or whether you're a professor, the whole notion of reciprocity for me is fundamental to our shared humanity, what we call Ubuntu, right, as they say in South Africa. And what you just shared also made me think we share the view that our investment, our interactions with young folk are important because literally they are the future,
They are.
right? And we have to model for them what different leadership styles look like, right? Obviously, we probably have a bit of some unorthodox, right, ways that we lead and guide and even love, if you will. I mean, on a communal level, on a national level, on a global level, these kinds of things are really, really important. And so this next question is partly connected. This is about your path to public service. I already know I was going to ask you this. So, balancing law school and a city council campaign sounds incredibly demanding. What motivated you to step into public service at that moment in your life? And what kept you going through the challenges of a grassroots campaign?
Yeah. Yeah. No, what motivated me and what kept me going, several things. When I went to study for my master's, I had an awakening
Mm,
a bit because the way that I was taught when I was during my undergraduate years were I was being taught.
okay.
When I got to my master's, I was told the professor said, "I'm not here to teach you. You are here to contribute."
Mm,
And that stayed with me throughout my life. It
yeah.
just stays with me that wherever you are there to contribute and not to just take.
Oh,
So for me, running for city council was my way of contributing to the city of Boulder,
I love that.
contributing to the people of Boulder. That was extremely important to me. And law school itself was not enough. It would not have sustained me.
Mm,
There's something about me and when I walk into a space, just being there taken because it was an opportunity that was given to me, right? And I also received a scholarship. So I could have just sat there, study and learn and go, but to me that was not enough. I had to contribute. I had to contribute my knowledge. I had to contribute what I see and what I saw back then because if you remember at the time when I got elected, I was the first Black woman elected to the Boulder City Council, although we had a Black mayor in the 70s. So between 1970, during the 70s, to 2019, It was almost 40 years
Yeah.
in between.
Yes.
So for me, when I looked at the city council, most of the people there were homeowners.
Okay.
They were white. They were older. And then I looked at Boulder, this very, very wealthy community, and
Yes.
people were constantly talking about environment, equity,
Mm.
diversity, and inclusion. And when I looked at leadership
Mhm.
and the leadership style, I did not see
Teach.
the things that we say we stood for.
Yeah.
I did not see them in action.
It was lip service.
So yes. So in essence, I wanted to contribute to that dialogue, to that narrative, to that conversation that, hey, wait a minute. Here's what you promise. And here's what I'm experiencing. Here's what I'm seeing.
Powerful.
Because when I moved to Boulder, by the way, I couldn't move into Boulder. I had to go live in Louisville in someone's house because I couldn't afford to live here in Boulder because it was too expensive. The amount of money I had, I could not live in Boulder. And I thought to myself, here's this community. I remember when I saw Boulder online.
Mhm.
I saw Boulder, by the way, before I moved here.
Wow.
That's how I knew I wanted to be in Boulder, because I saw it. I
Mm.
saw what it stood for
Right.
online.
It sounds
virtually.
good, right?
It sounds great.
It sounds good,
It
bro. They make
sounds
it.
great.
They tricked me too,
Yes.
Junie. I came here from Los Angeles, California, though.
You know, I came with my car. So I had a car. I didn't have a place to stay, by the way, when I was moving into Boulevard. So this woman said, yeah, you can come and stay with me and you pay. Again, I said to myself, if Boulder's truly that inclusive community, here I am, an educated woman who had seen the world.
Right.
The only difference is that I don't have a lot of money.
There you go.
I should be able to live here. I should be able to live amongst my peer, people that I believe we have the same values, except that
Yes.
we don't have the same economics.
There you go.
And that should not be fair. So that's why when I ran on socioeconomic diversity.
Thank you.
Right? The idea, regardless of your socioeconomics, you should be able to have a seat at the table and be able to contribute. So that's why I ran on that. But also another thing that pushed me to run for city council was much deeper. It was spiritual.
Ooh.
Yes, it was.
Please
It
tell.
was much
Pray
deeper.
tell. You know that's one of my favorite topics. I'm about to levitate up in
Yes.
here, man. Woo! Yes.
That's funny. Yes. So again, remember I mentioned to you I was living in Central African Republic.
Yes.
Something happened while I was living there because there were a lot of shootings and a lot of killings, and I had seen so much. And I wanted to leave to come back to study law. And I did feel remorse that I was leaving so many people behind.
Okay.
And I prayed on many occasions. And by the way, about 3 months in, something big happened where we were living in a base, in a military base, and people who lived outside of the base, meaning they were internally displaced people, and they were trying to get into the base, and we were living there, and there were shootings, and so things happened where I was very deeply traumatized, and I thought, I think I need to leave and come back to the U.S. But I wanted to stay and finish my time, by the way, even with everything that was happening with the killings and the threats of kidnapping of UN personnel and all that stuff. I wanted to finish my term and my time. And I said, God, if you allow me to finish my time and my term at the particular time where I was working there, I said, I want to come back to the U.S., but I want to continue to do your work. So for me, when I ran for city council, I felt that I was fulfilling that promise that I made to God and to myself. If I lived to finish my term in the Central African Republic and to come back to the United States, to that beautiful country,
Yeah.
I want to be able to contribute, and I will do your work. And that work is to be of service to other people. And that's what I set out to do. And there was no other way. I did not see another way.
Wow, Junie, I got so much. I mean, you just so your leadership, it's a calling for you. This isn't just a conventional politician. Like, this is a spiritual thing. Like, this is a calling. This is a vocation. This is a mission for you. I mean, does that sound about right?
Yes, it is truly. It is a calling. It is a mission. It is a promise that I made to God.
That is so spirit-led leadership, right? Spirit inspired, if you will. divine, if you would, divinely inspired leadership. We don't hear a lot of talk of that outside of, if you will, religious institutions per
Yeah.
se. And again, we still live in a country where people say there's a division of church and state, but people still,
Yeah.
especially black folk, right, got different ways that we pray about it and keep going on.
Yeah.
I'm also hearing this, your experience in Africa, of all places. Again, I'm a professor of African American and Caribbean studies. Africa is the birthplace, not simply of humanity, but of creativity.
Mm.
Our ideas, like, and again, I see you as a very creative leader. I've seen you, I believe, with school children. I've seen you with elders. I've seen you with quote unquote poor folks. I've seen you with rich folks. I've seen you with straight folks, queer folks, trans folks. I've seen you with, again, there's a diversity. Like, you seem to keep up with the pulse of the people that you're actually leading and serving, if you will. You seem to listen to us. I'm here in Boulder County, baby. So you seem to listen to us and really hear us out, like sort of how we're remaking, bringing a whole brand new Boulder into being, again, with your leadership. Junie, it seems to me that housing justice, which something we don't hear a lot about in Boulder, right?
Mm.
Housing, I did episodes on environmental justice, food justice, social justice. Housing justice, it seems to me, is a major part of your platform. Right. And we do believe the Boulder of the future has got to commit to housing justice. Would you agree? Talk to me.
Yes, wholeheartedly. Because aside from the idea of wealth,
Yes.
housing is about community.
Teach.
When you live in a place, you're rooted in that community.
go.
When you don't have a place to stay, you are outside of the boundaries. You are on the edge. And when I moved here to Boulder, that's how I felt.
Yes.
I felt that I was on the edge of Boulder. I was not part of the community, even though I was going to law school in the community.
Yes. Yes.
Right? And as an institution, often you hear there's collegiality, that sense of neighborliness. But I did not feel it because I was outside and I wanted so much to be in. And for me to do that work, housing, renters protection,
Yes.
it's about bringing people in, making them feel connected to the community that, hey, if you're here, we will fight for you. We will fight to keep you here. And we will fight to ensure that you don't fall into homelessness. Because again, when you see the unhoused, it's almost like you're looking at someone from somewhere else. But no, they're part of the community.
Very much so.
They're
Yes.
just disenfranchised from us and who we are and what we do. How do we bring them in? And how do we make sure that they don't fall, right, into homelessness on the edge of despair?
Right. It's really important for me to turn my listeners' attention to the housing justice part of your platform, to the socioeconomics, that you're really concerned about the least of these. You see, the have-nots. We got a lot of haves and both, but we also got a lot of have-nots. To be perfectly honest with you, we want to make sure that we're not erasing them, that they're not rendered invisible, that we actually are providing services for them, and there should be spaces for people to rise up. Like, this can be a space that people, a lot of us, feel really beat down in. Your leadership is inspiring. We are building something up as opposed to tearing folks down. Really, really important.
No, I appreciate, as you were talking, I was thinking of intellectual dishonesty.
Yes.
And living in this community that is, as you mentioned, that is very wealthy, and no one wants to talk about class, race, and economics because it makes them uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
But they're willing to have conversation with you, me, at parties, and take pictures and say that we are diverse or we care deeply about everybody else, but really we're not doing the work. Or at least when we are looking at the outcomes, it's not there. And I appreciate you saying that. And that's very important to me. It's important to do that work because we know that the wealthy will always have their seats at the table because they demand it, because they believe they built the table.
Hey.
Right? So they will have their seat at the table. See that at the Capitol, the lobbyists, they demand a seat at the table. But it's the regular people who has to fight. They have to constantly fight to have their voices heard, right? While they're working 2 to 3 jobs. So for me, I think it is important for me to bring their voices to the state capitol and to fight for them.
Junie, come stop it. I mean, this is a love festival up in here. So much truth.
Are you ready to dive deep into the rich histories, cultures, and arts of Africa and the African diaspora? At the Center for African and African American Studies, affectionately known as the CAUSE, we're leading the way in research, arts, and student engagement at the University of Colorado, Boulder. The CAUSE is more than just a research center. It's a space where students, faculty, artists, allies, and activists come together to explore African and African American experiences, from historical legacies to modern cultural expressions. And at the heart of it all, our students, playing a central role in everything we do. They're the future of this important cultural legacy, working side by side with faculty on groundbreaking projects and events that impact not just the campus, but the community and wider world. Research projects and events that impact not just our beloved CU campus, but the community and world at large.
Our mission? To foster academic excellence, social responsibility, and artistic expression, with programs that inspire leadership and advocacy for social justice. Whether you're interested in visual arts, music, or deepening your understanding of African American culture, the CAUSE is the place for you.
But we can't do it alone. The CAUSE relies on the generous support of our community to continue making a difference. By giving to the Center for African and African American Studies, you help us expand research, create opportunities for artists, support our students, and drive meaningful social change. And right now, your gift will go even further. All donations will be matched by CU Boulder Chancellor Justin Swartz for up to $1 million or until May 30th, 2026. To make your impact today, visit colorado.edu/center/cause and click on Support the Cause. Every contribution, large or small, brings us closer to a future of unity, knowledge, and transformation.
So, if you're looking for a community where history, culture, and creativity converge, visit the Center for African and African American Studies at CU Boulder. Come join the CAUSE and be a part of a movement for unity, knowledge, and social change.
Learn more and give today at colorado.edu/center/cause. We can't wait to welcome you to the CAUSE.
I always like to ask my interviewees about some of their great causes, pun intended. So you saw on the website, my center, the name of it, the CAUSE, was very influenced by one of my idols, Ella Baker. And you are like a modern day 21st century Ella Baker. The work that she was able to put in selflessly, the sacrifices she was able to make, her fierce sense of Black feminist leadership, her commitment to social justice, to human rights, to environmental rights. I could go on and on and on. You are carrying a lot of that forward. And I think it's very important for my listeners to know that you come down in a long tradition of leadership, particularly women's leadership. Like, we don't say that enough in this kind of society. Of immigrants' leadership. We don't say that enough in this society as well. And so now I want to tackle I got some great causes questions, some great causes and great commitments questions. Are you ready?
Ready or
Here we go.
not.
We having fun up in here today. This is beautiful. You've been deeply committed to social justice and criminal justice reform, from advocating for bilingual emergency announcements to supporting collective bargaining. What drives your passion for justice, and how do you see these issues shaping the future of Colorado?
I love that. I love the fact you mentioned the bilingual notice. That's from my first year on city council. So thank you for that.
Studied
For
you. See,
doing that.
I've studied you. I do. I'm a good student. I'm a halfway decent student.
Thank you. That's excellent. I think, again, as I mentioned to you, having been born in Haiti, moving to this country at around 14 years old, I didn't speak English when I first moved to this country. And throughout my life, while I was in school, there were times when my mom would go to the school with me and I would be her translator.
Oh,
Yes, and that was in Florida. And all that stayed with me, all that experience stayed with me. Imagine having a 14-year-old or 15-year-old who just moved to this country translating for their parents. I doubt that I was that good of a translator,
but still, you
right?
you 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 did it, and look at where you're at now,
Yes.
Representative Joseph.
Thank you. But still, I wanted to make sure that when people need support, that they don't have to rely on their families entirely. And what if the person do not have access to that friend or that family member? The state should be able to provide certain level of support for them. So for me, that was extremely important to do that work. And also too, again, as we've mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
the wealthy will always have what they need. And to your point earlier, that's the world we move in, me
Yeah.
and you.
Yeah.
We know a lot
Yeah.
of wealthy people.
Absolutely.
And I engage them and they're my friends, and that's fair. But I also want to make sure the voices of those who are marginalized and disenfranchised are heard. But also, too, to your point earlier,
Okay.
the reason why I really do this work, someone paved the way for me.
Teach.
I did not show up here all of a sudden, Junie Joseph, state representative. Someone laid the groundwork for me. You've laid the groundwork for me. You've been in Boulder for 20 years. I've only been in Boulder 8 years, right? For the last at least 12 years, you have done the work.
Right.
You have done the educating that maybe you were not thinking that, hey, when you first got here, you probably were not thinking, I'm laying the groundwork.
Right.
I'm teaching people so that when Junie comes in 2019, they will vote for her. You were not thinking that way, but you were doing that work.
Thank you.
That's why I do that work. The NAACP as well, we're doing that work.
Yes.
You've been doing that work. That's why I'm here, because someone else did the work to prime the ground
Good.
for me
Mm.
to be here, to make it acceptable, because there were a time it was not acceptable.
Oh, I mean,
Come on.
in some quarters, it almost still, they like taking us backwards, but I'm going to leave that part alone. I want to invoke Harriet Tubman, something that is attributed to Harriet Tubman when she said it's important for us to be able to make a way out of no way.
Mhm,
And then I think about Septima Clark,
mhm.
Ella Baker, Fannie Lou Hamer. These are waymakers. These are bridge builders. You embody some of that. And I want to say right here, while you're sitting across from me in the studio, I want to say it to your face and your eardrums. Be encouraged. Keep doing your work. We rarely say this. You and I both know there's a great deal of resentment for people in political office right now. I don't care what party you in. And so when you come across one, now you notice you're the first one to be on my podcast. That's got to say you're the inaugural, right? And I'm very selective. Junie, you know me personally. I'm a very very selective. This is my baby. This is my platform. I'm building it up. Junie, I don't even do social media. John does it, bless his heart. John Arnold, my podcast producer, I'm shouting him out. So he does all of that. I don't do all of that. And there's a sense in which I'm also changing with the times. This is me hanging out with 18 to 23-year-olds for the last 25 years that I've been a part of the professorate. They influence me, right? I love the part where you and I both are acknowledging publicly how we inspire each other, how we understand ourselves to be tag teaming, how we love Boulder, Colorado. So if I criticize it, it is only because I love it. Did your mother ever say, no, that skirt is a little too short, or what you wear is a little too tight, baby? You're going to have to go and check. Our parents didn't say that because they hated us. They did it because they love us. So what about love-inspired critique? That's something that if we're going to have a beloved community, we have to have love-inspired critique. I hear a lot of your positions, a lot of the policies you sign on. That's love-inspired, though. We're doing it because we're trying to not only have an impact on the present, I want to ensure a future. See, my students won't be here. They will be here when I'm long gone. I want the world to be better because I came to Boulder. And Junie, I want people to know that we were here. See, they gonna know we was here whenever we go. They gonna know we was here. How do we make our mark and how do we empower people who don't have a lot of money in their bank account? I want them to know that they have power and that together we are powerful. That's why we run around saying Harambe. Harambe is a Kiswahili word. Let's pull together, right? And work together to achieve a great goal. That's your campaign. That's a grassroots. That's the kind of campaign you run. Look, dude, I've been studying you. I'm like a Junie Joseph scholar right now. And so for me, it's a real honor to sit across from you. Let me go on to the next question. As someone recognized as a leader for climate integrity, you've been outspoken about environmental justice. How do you connect climate action to the everyday concerns of your constituents in Boulder and beyond?
Yeah. Yeah, environmental concern should be a concern for all of us.
Teach.
All of us. And there are times too, again, when we're doing social justice work and I do the work the way that I do it, I'm very intentional in the way that I do housing, environment,
I've noticed.
right? Because we can always have the academic conversation,
Theory.
right?
What about the practice?
Exactly. And what does that look like? And who are we involving as part of that practice? And then what does it truly mean, right?
Teach, Julie.
Again, as you know, environmental issues disproportionately impact Black and brown people.
Go ahead. Teach.
Right?
That's
So
right.
that's why this work is extremely important to me. As you know, as you're aware, Boulder, their number one priority from the time I was on council till today remains the environment, right?
Yeah.
But it's how do we do that environmental work?
Right.
How do we do that environmental justice? I've ran really interesting and good bills in this space
Good.
to make sure that people have access. And I remember one of my bills that I passed a year ago or two, and it was around subsidies,
Yes.
bike subsidies.
Yes.
And I remember the conversation,
I remember that.
right?
Yeah.
And also there were EVs, right? And not everyone can buy an EV, but someone can buy a bicycle, right? So an electric bike. So that's part of that conversation. Yes, maybe you cannot buy a mansion that has all the bells and whistles when it comes to the environment, but are we retrofitting some of our renters, right?
Yes.
One of some of those rental apartments.
Yes.
To make sure that people have similar access.
I love it.
At the end of the day. So again, that's the conversation. I remember when I was on city council, we wanted to build housing near a pharmaceutical plant. And I remember voting no against that particular policy because, again, they wanted to put housing
Good.
near a place where they know if there is any type of toxic or disaster, right, at that pharmaceutical plant, who would be the first impacted?
There you
Those
go.
people living there. And I had to remind my colleagues that that is not fair. If you're building housing, you don't want to build it affordable housing next to the highway.
Yes.
Because you understand the environmental impact of building housing there. Because you would not put wealthy people there. Why do you put working people there? So that's the conversation that I bring to the table or into the room when we're having those conversations. Yes, I want to do the work and I'm excited to do the work, but how do we do the work? How do we show the love that we show to people, right? We don't want to give people the things that we don't want.
Thank you. Because that's not charity. If I can be perfectly honest, you're not doing us any kind of favor. In fact, you're harming us.
Yes.
And it'd be better to listen to folks like yourself, right? And the community who, like, we can articulate what our needs are, right? And what we want to do in the beloved community, we say a core principle, we want to place human need over human greed, right? We want to place people over profits. That's the beloved community. It's about principles, right? It's about us committing to those. But you and I both know with the environmental issue, often in Boulder, I'm not aware of folks saying, or at least having a deep discourse on environmental racism. See, if you put the public housing next to the plant and understanding the toxicity of the soil, right, and all the things that could go wrong, and inevitably they often do go wrong, right?
Exactly as you mentioned, that Boulder is a very dynamic community, and there are a lot of subtleness as it relates to the class dynamics, right? Especially, the way we talk quite often about equity, diversity, and inclusion. And that's something that we care deeply about. Yes, we do. And we have done some work in that space. I mean, this is a majority white community. And here I am as their elected representatives. So they are doing the work.
Yes.
Right? But there's still more work to be done. And I think there's something that you also mentioned, and if I can say anything to the young people who are listening,
Thank you.
is that you bring someone with you. Your job is, if you get here to see you, is not to hoard the knowledge, is not to close the door behind you. You have to open the discourse and open opportunities for other people to also engage and be right in the room as well. That's why I do the work that I do as the first Black woman too in the House district. Is that I want to continue to have the conversation about equity because we're not there yet.
Yes.
And that's the point too, is that if we're not careful, we could say, oh yeah, because I'm the state representative for the district, then there's no issues with race, class, and any other. You know
Everything
what I mean?
is fine.
It's solved. All the problems are solved. But no, that's not true, right? I had to work really hard to get into the room. And now the work begins. And now we have to do even more work.
There you go.
To make it sustainable, to make it durable, right? And not to just be happy with, how do I put it, kind of the appearance of equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Right. Junie, for me, it was the point that you made about how hard you work to get where you are, particularly in terms of you're at the state capitol, you're a representative, our representative. It's not simply getting there. For me, in terms of political science, as you know, it's how do you stay there? And even more that, how do you move the needle of those whenever you get there to the state capitol? How do we actually transform the space? I would like to think CU is different because I served on the faculty here. I want to practice institutional transformation. So instead of me just criticizing CU, right, for all of the, stuff that I could, I decided to actually work with them, right, to transfer. And the more I've done that, well, you're sitting in the center now, right? Well, it can be transformative on a lot of different levels. I also don't think I have to be antagonistic with folks in power. I want to actually have some conversations with them about what it means to share power. I feel like you, a representative being here in my center, this is an example of shared power, right? Please talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love what you just said. As an elected official, I do believe there's opportunity to change the system. You have changed the university. You have changed the face of Boulder, CU Boulder. I would imagine there are people who looked at the university, not knowing whether they want to come and study here. And they look at the center and they say, this is exactly where I want to be.
Wow.
Right? Because of the work that you're doing. And that's my hope, that the work that I do at the state capitol will inspire young people here in Boulder at CU to run for city council, to run for the state legislature. When I look at myself, I want other young little Black girls and Black boys to run and not think about, oh my God, it's too white, or it's too this, it's too Hispanic, or you need to run, because when you run, you're not running for yourself. It's not about the color of your skin. It's about the vision that you have for the community and a vision that is relatable, right? Those are the important things. So I'm hoping that when I'm done with my 8 years, if I choose to do my full 8 years at the state legislature, is that when a newcomer comes in, they will do the work, even as well too for House District 10, regardless of their race, whether they're white, Hispanic, or anything in between, is that they will have seen the work that I have done, and I will have inspired them to be a little bit bolder.
Judy, you better stop. That sounds like a campaign slogan. I'm getting ready for your next office. Hint, hint, wink, wink. Next question. You've also spoken passionately about equal access to education and immigrant rights. Drawing on your own experience as an immigrant and first-generation leader, what progress have you seen in these areas, and what do you think still needs to be done at the state level?
Yeah, we've made a lot of progress.
We have.
We have, but
Yeah.
we still have a long way to go because, if we think about 400 years of oppression, it will not be relieved in 8 years because of my tenure at the state legislature. So it takes all of us, not just some of us, all of us. And we also have to lean in on our allies, right? And we have to also, at least for me too, there were things that you mentioned earlier I was thinking about. We have to get past what people look on the outside,
Yes.
right? Because you see me, you say, oh, yeah, Rep Junie Joseph. There were so many great people in the community who supported me, who carried me through city council, right? And, white women
Yes.
who really wanted to see the face of the Boulder City Council change as well. And so were also my Black family members and friends and allies in the NAACP
Yes.
who fought for me to become a state legislator. All these people were there with me, supporting me. So to your point about whether we have done a lot of work, we have. We have done a lot of work to diversify the community. But I would be remiss if I didn't mention this. When we look at all the work that we have done, it seems on one hand we're doing a lot of work, and on another hand there are forces trying to destroy all the good work that we have done. Regardless of where you stand when it comes to the NAACP, I find it very troubling that we don't have an NAACP branch in Boulder. And liberal Boulder,
Right. It's shocking.
that our NAACP branch is no more. Regardless of where you stand.
Right.
Again, you've seen the work.
Yes.
I am the work
Yes.
that they have done on the ground for the past many years. You are the work.
Absolutely. They were instrumental in helping me establish the
Yes.
center. Come on.
So we have done the work.
Absolutely.
The bilingual educations that we have done, I've passed so many bills in that space, in the bilingual space,
Yes.
to ensure that our Latino and Latinx communities have access to the government.
Right.
And so that language is not a barrier. And then we have our current administration coming into this to different cities, snatching people off the street. That's, on one hand, we're doing the work. On the other hand, we have forces that are destroying the very work that we're doing, making community members fear the very government that is meant to protect them. Do you believe, or do you think that someone who are a non-English speaker, or even if they speak English, if they know the federal government is snatching people off the street, do you think they can differentiate between the state and the federal government? No, they will be fearful of everybody. But the thing is, as you've mentioned, is that we have to continue to be hopeful.
Absolutely.
I'm very hopeful. I'm hopeful to be here. I'm hopeful to be an American because
Bless you.
imagine with everything that is going on at the federal level, I can sit with you and have those very conversations and criticize them. We can sit here as a representative from Boulder and point to the things that are not working, right? And still be elected, and you still coming back to work tomorrow. There is hope.
Yes.
There is hope, and we need to hold on to that hope for the next 3 years because we know the administration will change, and hope for a brighter future will be.
When you look ahead, what is the big vision that keeps you waking up each day, energized to serve? And what kind of Colorado do you hope to help build for the next generation?
That's, wow, my goodness. What kind of Colorado do I want to build?
Please.
When I was younger, I knew that I wanted to make a difference. And I think when you're young, you're thinking of, the difference as something splashy.
Yeah. Big.
Woo!
Yeah, dude.
Grand. But I think now that I've lived as long as I've lived, I think the difference in your community, if that's all you can change, that's a big change in itself.
Huge.
And that's my hope, is that, just in this House District 10 that I can make a difference in that, when a young Black girl wants to run for city council, if she hears no, that she knows that there's someone who tried it at a time where it could have seem impossible, right? When you look at the demographics of the community.
Okay.
And when you look at where I came from as well, too.
That's right.
Being born in Haiti, coming here as a student, and being working class, right? In a community that is uber wealthy, and still be able to thrive and do it, you know that you can do it.
Wow.
Because I hope that this work that I've done, I've primed the ground a little bit because of the work that you've done, Dr. Rabaka, because of the work of the NAACP.
That's right.
That I make it a little bit easier for the next person, right? And that they know that they can do that work. To me, that's my hope. And also, I want to continue to do the work of justice.
Yeah. As we close out, I just would like to say once again how much of a great source of inspiration to me and to so many of us, folks that they haven't told you yet. And I hope that they will when they hear this show. Just send you a word of encouragement, a note of encouragement. And you're absolutely correct. Your story is an incredibly improbable story. What you shared with us, coming from Haiti at 14, right? Growing up working class, not having enough money to go to school, but some way, somehow going. That is the most improbable story, but it's also a very American story. It is what the best of this country is about. It is what the best of American democracy is about. And so if nothing else, we want the listeners to get a sense of what radical democracy sounds like, of what that future democracy sounds like, of what the beloved community sounds like. And as we close out, I just want to thank once again Colorado State Representative Junie Joseph, my sister, my friend, a great source of inspiration. She represents House District 10 in Boulder, Colorado. Representative Joseph has been a passionate advocate for social justice, for environmental justice, for criminal justice reform, and immigrant rights. And we've just heard her share very vulnerably her special story with us all. And I'm just geeked out by the fact that this story is taking place right here, right now, in Boulder, Colorado. Let's continue to build the beloved community here in Boulder, Colorado. I'm your host, Reiland Rabaka, and this has been The Cause Podcast. Until we connect again, keep loving, keep learning, and keep listening.
Hi friends, producer John here. I'm hopping in here to say I hope you enjoyed this interview with Representative Junie Joseph. We had to edit this one for time, but if you'd like to hear the full and unedited version of the interview, visit our website at bit.ly/thecausepodcast. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you for joining us for The Cause Podcast with Dr. Reiland Rabaka. For your letters, questions, and suggestions regarding the podcast, email us thecause@gmail.com. CAAAS. We may even read your letter on the air. The Cause Podcast with Dr. Reiland Rabaka is produced and edited by John Arnold and is a production of the Center for African and African American Studies, The Cause, at the University of Colorado, Boulder. For more information, visit us online at colorado.edu/center/cause. CAAAS.
Class is in session, so come and get your lesson. Ooh, The Cause Podcast. I love that. Do you love that?